Hey, what is up guys? It's your boy Speed here, and today what we're going to be doing is going over 5 rules that you can follow as a position 5 and position 4 player that will allow you to just simply be better at the game. These are very straightforward rules that, if followed, will make you more versatile, more deadly, and survive longer, which is like kind of the idea of being a support. And so yeah, if you're excited for today's video, I don't know, don't do anything actually. Don't click the like button. I was gonna say click the dislike button, but like I've tried that before and then the video got a ton of dislikes, which I don't really know if it does anything. Okay, just like the video. We'll keep it simple for today. Just like the video, thanks, and let's get into it. Before we get into the 5 rules of supporting, I just want to say that over on the website, if you're looking for more educational content, I just made 2 videos. Well, actually, more than that. So here they are. The topics were a Tinker offlane Smurf game. Yes, Tinker offlane. I teach you how to win the offlane, even as like a really weird hero like Tinker, and snowball the game. So that's really funny. It's really interesting. Definitely worth the watch. It's going to teach you a lot about the laning stage, even getting into the mid game. On top of that, I also played a Slark game recently, where I played against some very notable figures in the community. I thought I played really well. I stuck to my role, and in that game, I taught carry players how you guys can recover from very tough games, where you don't necessarily have the best of lane, and your other lanes lose as well. I'll talk about how to make better decisions to make sure that you have the opportunity to come back in the game. And on top of that, I just did a bit of a motivational rant where I discussed like why every little mistake, every decision you make in Dota causes a snowball effect, how to think about this, how to avoid listening to your excuses. And I even talk about like how I make excuses, and I did it in the video, and why it's important to like reframe your thinking when it comes to that. So yeah, click the link down below. I know that was a lot, but that's the thing. There's a lot of content on the website, and let's get into the video. All right, my first and favorite tip of supporting that, oh my god, everyone gets this wrong, is the idea of getting your spells off before dying. The reality is, Dota's a complex game. You never know what's gonna happen. It's a weird game, so you want to get your spells off, especially if you have the awareness to say, okay, my teammates are around. It's particularly important. Most people, when they're dying, are panicked, right? Most people don't have the ability to say, okay, I'm dying. What do I need to do in this scenario to make it the best possible death? No, they just freak out and die. And if you can change that, you become a better player. So let's watch Jabs here. This is game 4 between Fnatic and TNC in the recent TI qualifier match, best of 5. And let's look at this clip. So right here, he's pushing the top wave. His team is bottom. He's just trying to farm up a Blink Dagger and get some levels. Pretty standard for a position 4 to do this at this stage of the game, the 15 to 20 minute mark, as they often need this key timing, and it's very risky for your team to send off a core alone into a side lane, and so instead a support does it. And you can see, first things first, I mean, I know this is a bit of a side note, but he's even playing defensive. So he's playing defensive, he's posturing as if he's going to get ganked. After every single last hit, he backs up a little bit. Now he gets jumped. This looks like immediate death. And for most people, they would panic, and it would be immediate death, and they wouldn't get anything off. But instead, he doesn't panic, he plays the absolute edge of the coil, gets dropped to 50 HP, pops his Fairy Fire wand last second. As a result, he gets off his stun, which lets him get, right, a huge 2-man impale, leaving the Puck under the tower, and gets the Hex off. And you might be like, okay, well, Puck's just gonna be low HP. Great news, Puck has to go back to base, right? Well, because Dota's a weird game, what ends up happening is the Ember hits a really nice chain, and Puck dies to the tower. Pretty crazy, right? Like, think about it. Think about how ridiculous that actually is, and why that should teach you to not panic and to always think about every option you have to stay alive and get off what you can. Because that goes from just a casual line pickoff, which isn't that bad, to a casual line pickoff that actually got him closer to his Blink Dagger, considering he split the gold, and a kill for the Ember, which netted Ember a ton of XP. And so really cool stuff coming out there. Just love that example. Alright, next up we're going to talk about Blink Dagger. So very often supports have Blink Dagger, or they are an initiator. And what I want to talk about in this regard is how to initiate, and why you should not initiate like a psycho 9 times out of 10. And when you should initiate like a psycho 1 time out of 10. And let's get into it. I have 2 examples we're going to go over. So to give the gist of what I'm about to show you in this clip, very often support players make the mistake of overcommitting when they go for a kill. They get very excited, and that's normal. It's like, oh, I see the Puck and I'm playing line, or I see the Puck and I'm playing Earth Spirit and Shaker and Wyvern and whatever, Bane, and, you know, Rubik, Shaman. I'm just listing all the examples so you guys see, like, this is very common for heroes, even without a Blink Dagger, and they overcommit. So in this clip, what I like from Jabs is that he doesn't, and it seems really simple. So you'll see in this clip here, as they go up to the tower, he had the option to blink in multiple different ways, and I'm going to talk about why his blink is basically the best. So as we can see from the fight starting, they have this deep ward, right? So they immediately have really good vision. Based on this deep ward, they see this Medusa here, and he knows that the enemy team, because of all this information, because, you know, he's been paying attention to the map, that they are on the top side, okay? So his best initiation immediately shifts to the bottom. You want to initiate from the bottom. Initiating through mid would simply get him insta-killed, right? Going in here, he would die instantly. So his best possible initiation is generally going to be from the side here. The only time you would want to cycle blink in is for a key kill, which I'll show you an example of in the next clip. But pings the trees, he's like, hey, there's probably someone here. Sees Tims. Now, he makes this very, very aggressive hex. And, like, even from my perspective, this is maybe a little bit too deep. To be fair, he's probably more so focused on just getting off the blink and getting off the hex, rather than worrying too much about his positioning, which is, you know, somewhat understandable. It's a good pickoff, right? The enemy team is on the north side. It's a catch onto the Mirana. It will allow his team to jump in a way that stays very safe for them, and that's big. But at the same time, he knows that if there's someone in these trees, he'll stun them, right? This is very common. If they're going to defend the tier 1, most of the TPs come into this tree line because, you know, you don't have vision of it. And he actually ends up hitting the puck. On top of that, once he hits the puck, he immediately backs out. He doesn't focus the finger. No one's actually in finger range right now. You don't want to focus the finger. You want to focus on resetting so you can get your next set of spells off. And this is the key thing. When he does blink on this Mirana, even though I would like to argue to some extent it maybe is like a little bit too far, I don't want to be too nitpicky, and I just want to say, like, it's okay because he knew the majority of the enemy team was on the top side. Therefore, even though he got a little bit too close, it's probably not going to get him punished. And therefore, it's a really nice initiation, ends up re-engaging for the nice finger onto the lion, and it's a beautiful engagement. Absolutely fantastic. And yeah, to be fair, this clip, it's not like he ever got to re-initiate. I just want to say that very often you will, and that's why that comes into play. But let's get into the example where you do want to cycle blink. Okay, so the game static out a little bit. Fnatic has a pretty demanding lead. We're 38 minutes into the game here. And at this point, what he's going to be looking to do in typical Lion fashion when you're ahead in the late game is to look for a pickoff, especially in one of the side lanes where it's hard for the enemy team to respond, right? And that's the key, right? You want to find targets where you think the enemy team can't respond, and then you want to instantly catch them. And so in this clip here, we're going to see Medusa push out of the base after he finds her, right? So in a couple seconds here, he's going to end up finding Medusa. He's going to go to the bottom side. He expects someone to shove out the lane. Now, the Medusa is about to show top. And the reason why I think this is okay and his jump is okay is because based on these fire spirits, you can see, based on these fire spirits, you would generally assume in a pub that if someone throws fire spirits defensively like this, if you didn't see what I'm talking about, I'll show it again, right? So clip starts, they're smoked, okay? In your average pub, you're not going to get smoked on, so this doesn't really apply, but it's still something to note. This is really advanced Dota. If you see Phoenix throw defensive fire spirits, the reason why I say it's defensive is he just kind of like chucks him out from here. He knows that Fnatic's going to see this. They're high MMR players. They're going to see this, okay? There's a very low chance that these fire spirits will go undetected. But largely what this does is it baits them to make a rotation into here. And really, if you see it from Fnatic's perspective, this is actually a really high MMR player by Boomy. Because when you see the fire spirits from the Lion's perspective, it looks like he's not really trying to commit. He's seemingly just trying to shove the wave. You can even see the ping comes out to here, and they even scan. He's just looking for a jump. He thinks they're too afraid to push out of the base, and they're going to go for a pickoff. So first things first, that's another thing to learn just from Boomy. That's some like really cool advanced stuff right then and there. And then more importantly, Jabs, obviously based on this read, thinks that, oh, if I find someone, I'm going to jump them instantly. And that's kind of what we see here. Obviously, unfortunately for him, that wasn't the case, so I think he ends up dying right away. But yeah, he obviously thinks that, hey, this is a pick-off, this isn't a team fight. Obviously, this blink becomes quite mediocre once it becomes a team fight, and this fight actually almost went bad for Fnatic. So I thought this was very, very well played by TNC, like considering how far behind they actually were. I thought this was like a really nice attempt by them to smoke out, bait out the Phoenix Fire Spirits. Obviously, they're just way too far behind. Raven just freaking shreds them with the help of the Abaddon. The Sunder was just practically guaranteed, and you know, it was a disaster. But that is the situation where you'd want to cycle blink. It's a high value target, and especially if you know it's a split pushing situation, that's what you want to look for. So on the subject of stuns, I want to really discuss picking off people in side lanes. I've been playing a bunch of pubs lately, actually more than I usually do, and I've noticed this common trend. When I'm playing support, lot of people are dying in side lanes, and this is gonna sound cocky, and no, I'm not the best. Okay. Now that I've disclaimed that I'm not the best, and you don't have to hate me, basically, people don't know how to play side lanes. They don't know how to read movements. You have to learn how to read movements if you want to end games faster when you get ahead, right? Because in this game, the puck's gonna push the waves out, so is the DK. You can see instantly as the puck starts to push out the lane, he's gonna TP top. Why? Because he knows that the enemy team has really good high ground defense. They have a Phoenix, they have a Medusa, they have even a puck, right? It's really easy for them to sit on the high ground and defend. And so a great way for them to try to end the game is to get a pick off, right? They can hopefully then force a 4v5, the high ground, rather than a 5v5, which would potentially go poorly. And so you can see, he instantly goes top, and he tells his teammate to go top as well. Now, like, on a side note, you can also do this without TPing. For instance, if your team isn't like this far up and you're just shifted around mid, instead of just staying mid, if nothing's happening and you're ahead, go walk into these trees and sit in the trees. Especially if your team has an Ember, or a Storm, or a Bots hero. For instance, I was playing Nature's Prophet. That's a great example. If your team has a Nature's Prophet. I had this position for Mars, we were really far ahead, and instead of looking for side lane pickoffs, and by the way, there was like a million opportunities because they would see my team bottom, they would go top, right? One hero would go top. Usually they're high mobility, wave pushing hero. I forget which one it was. And we could have killed that guy a million times. I had an Orchid. I just needed a +1 to stun them, right? Because they obviously are going to have like quelling and whatever. And he just didn't do it, ever. And so in order to become the highest MMR player possible, you have to be able to set up side lane plays in advance. You have to read movements. You have to say, okay, when people get desperate, they're going to shove waves. They're going to split push. If they don't, that just means you're in a really low MMR bracket and you should be split pushing more in general. So that's another good tip, even as a support. But yeah, you can see, nice play. He hits a really nice blink. They catch DK. Okay, bada bing, bada boom. Good stuff. They get the pick off. Next up, I want to give a little bit of a rant, on why you need to stop buying items in the late game, okay? You have to be so careful of this, because when people get ahead, even when they get behind, people do weird stuff. But especially if you get ahead as position 5 or position 4, people buy the worst items, I swear. Just in general, when people get ahead, they buy the worst items, or they buy Lincolns for no reason when they needed to BKB. That's like my biggest pet peeve in Dota, like Lincolns over BKB, or like Basher instead of like Sanjin Yasha because they missed 1 kill and they felt like it was because they couldn't bash them. It's like such a common misconception. That's for another video. But when you are ahead, let's take a quick look at the items. Okay, Vlad's Force Staff Holy Locket. Cheap 2k to 3k gold items that have the most impact without that don't do DPS. These are the general items you should be buying as a support. Now, there are heroes like Phoenix that you can argue you might want an Axe on. Why? Because they don't generally have a save for a Lion Jump. And so instead, you can egg them. So I get what he's doing here. This is a build that I think Boomy has done multiple times. I think he's done this actually a lot this tournament, or this qualifiers. And I've seen it work. So like, this is like a legit build that he's doing based upon the matchup. So I get that. But people will, what they'll do is they'll be like, yup, okay, I got this Holy Locket. That's like my first item. That's my key item. I don't know what to buy. Oh, I have 2k gold because we just won a team fight. Guess I'm queuing up the friggin' Axe! And then they buy an Axe on Abaddon. It's like, yes, it's not that bad. But there's items that are much better. For instance, Force Staff. If someone gets DK stunned, and you can kite out the duration of the DK stun, which sounds weird because you have a Fata Shield, but maybe they get stunned, right? Or maybe you're out of range and you need to catch up. The Force Staff helps with that. Even if someone just gets arrowed in this game, right? It's like one of those really good games to have a Force Staff because the enemy team has a lot of disables. They have a lot of stuns. And anytime they have hard stuns, one of the harder counters, besides the Photic Shield, is Force Staff, because you want to be able to obviously kite out the stun, and Glimmer Cape, if they're stunned, they're just going to put down a sentry and likely kill them anyway, unless they're all magical damage. So just be careful about buying shit items. Even the Lion, right? He has like Aether Lens and a Blink Dagger. So many people would get ahead, and even if the enemy team has like no illusions that they need to easily clear, they're going to buy like an Axe. I mean, even if they do have illusions nowadays, you should just buy the Shard and just kill them that way, right? So please be so careful about getting baited into buying like a Hex on Ogre, right? Like, unless you went the Midas build and your team has legit no stuns, you just shouldn't do it, right? You just shouldn't do it. These small items are game-changing if you get good at using them. And I'm just so... I feel so strongly about that. Even just the idea of having an Aether Lens against this Manta Medusa. I mean, look at this, right? She put out some Mantas. He's gonna suck him down in a second. Wait. Right? Look. Dead. Right? Dead. And if you're against a Naga, dead. Instead, people have like an Axe, and then they don't get any spells off because they have to like be melee range, and they have an Axe. Or like half an Axe. Smile. And last, but certainly not least, always respect the high ground defense. Guys, if you're a support player, you cannot get baited up the high ground. I don't care how far your teammates go, unless you are super far ahead, or it's like a 5v3 and the other two heroes don't have buyback, and you know that jumping like X hero and killing them will guarantee the high ground's easy, like a Zeus. Okay, I get it, or a Tinker, right? You can make the YOLO jump. But for the most part, respect the high ground defense. Play defensive, right? Even here, like DJ is playing Abaddon. By all like means, he could walk up the high ground and just vibe. And you could be like, okay, he's Abaddon. No, just chill. Do not bait your team to have to save you on the high ground. For instance, here, look, December jumps, okay? What is he trying to do? He's trying to force Phoenix Egg. He understands if Phoenix has no egg, the hero is practically useless. Why? Because this Phoenix build is very much reliant on the shard. It's very reliant on egging and then clicking the shard and putting out this massive sun ray. That's why he has the nulls. So if you go on him and you force the egg, you've eliminated a hero, and that's exactly what he does. He eliminates the hero, pops a BKB, egg is forced, immediate disengage. Let's look at the Abaddon's positioning during that jump. He respects the high ground, does not walk up. He sees the Ember go in, you can see how he's clicking back. He understands the purpose of this. Now, obviously Chuan's a much better player than your average spot player. I get it. Your average spot player is going to go way too deep, a little bit too deep. And you might need to save them as an Abaddon. And I get that, right? Maybe you do need to save them, and it's the right play in the circumstance. Just be very, very careful about going too deep. And just look at this high ground siege in general. This is like, for everyone who's watching this, I'm sure core players are watching this, right? Like, this needs to be your mentality 9 times out of 10, unless the enemy team has so much high ground defense where no one can walk up. In that case, you just need to wait for Aegis, or wait for the enemy team to come out of the base, or look for a smoke play to jump up their high ground and catch them off guard, right? Look for the pick off. I've talked about how to do that in other videos. But yeah, like, even the one time they do dive, it's like based on a very clear jump onto a key target. You generally don't want to do this, but the one time they do jump, they get this massive fear on them to do so. She completely runs out of mana. She's obviously pretty screwed. The Lion gets a deep jump in. He catches out the puck, and so it's obviously going to be a good fight at the time. And DK had no buyback, which I think they knew, so it's a 4v5. But until then, they were playing it slow, continuing the siege, respecting the fact that if they dive, they will get controlled. And like, I'm going to end the video with this line. One of the biggest mistakes in Dota is assuming that because you won the last fight, that you're just inherently stronger. You have to assume that you're stronger based on circumstances. You are stronger when you are in the open. You are stronger because you have items that you can use better in the open. If it's a 5v5 with no, like, if you want to fight in their jungle, it doesn't mean you're going to go up high ground and win the fight as well. In fact, most of the time, you won't, especially if it's earlier into the game, right? Usually high ground is somewhat feasible late game. But alright, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, smash the like button and subscribe. I know this is a lot of information to take in. I know there's a lot of ranting, but I really hope you can take a lot of these messages to heart. Even here, they're literally 2 heroes up. You can see they are 2 heroes up. They got 2 pickoffs, and yet they are all still playing defensive because they know jumping DK and jumping Medusa is not a good idea, and they still need to respect the high ground. They need to respect the tier 4s as well. And yeah, that's what they do. They play it relatively slow. Raven gets off a really nice Sunder, and finally, now because of that, they can commit onto the Medusa. But they played it slow, they waited for their gap, they waited for their cooldowns, and they won the game. Beautifully done. I'll see you guys in the next one, and I'm out. Peace. And that's all, but remember, before you leave, before you tune out, subscribe to the gameleap website, where we are going to help you get to the next rank. If you're stuck, click the link down below, and I'm out. Peace.